Update. Am I the a-hole for leaving a dinner party after a girl sat on my husband's lap? Original post. I am so shook with everything, so sorry for my rambling. My husband Jake and I have been married for 3 years, and from the beginning was very close with his best friend's sister, Cindy, 18 female. Well, my husband would often talk about her and tell how he had seen her grow up throughout the years. Cindy is always very bubbly and seems very fond of Jake as well. I remember when we were dating, she would ask to come along on our dates a lot. I never really said anything as I liked spending time with her as well. She was like a little sister to me. When we announced our engagement, she asked my husband to better not forget her after being a married man and to still hang out with her. Well, we got married and I even made her my bridesmaid. Soon we moved to a different state and kind of lost contact. Now, Jake's best friend came to stay with us for some time, and Cindy came along as well. Now, the moment she saw us, the first thing that she said was how hot my husband had gotten, and she was glad that he didn't look like those boring married men. Then throughout their stay, Cindy would just ignore my presence and will be way too close with Jake. I told Jake that it was looking a bit inappropriate and to ask Cindy to tone it down. But he said that Cindy is just a bit childish, and that is the way that she is with everybody. Well, at their last day, we decided to host a dinner party for everybody. During the party, I was with Jake when Cindy came and told me, "Oh, I need to steal your husband for a while." And before I could say something, she grabbed Jake's hand and took him for playing games. I ignored it since it was their last day. But then, throughout the dinner, she was getting way too close with Jake and would just drag him away whenever I would be around while giggling at me. When everybody sat for dinner, I sat beside Jake and Cindy came last. She then said, "Oh, there is no seat," and then just went and sat on my husband's lap. Everybody was surprised, and Jake said, laughingly, "Cindy, stop acting like a kid. You're not a kid anymore." Cindy started laughing, saying it was just a joke, and got up and sat on another seat while giggling at me. Yeah, I was so angry with the disrespect and with the fact that Jake was so cool with it, but I didn't want to say anything bad, so I excused myself and took the car and went out. About an hour later, Jake called me asking where I was. I told him I'm going to my friend's house and I will come back after Cindy has left. I know what I did was terrible, but I was so angry at that time that if I'd stayed there any longer, I would probably start fighting or crying. I came the next day and Cindy and her family had left. Jake was very pissed and said I took things too far. I started crying and told him how everything made me feel. He said it was horrible to think such things about Cindy and that she was like his sister. I told him that I was not doubting his intentions, but I was hurt by how disrespectful Cindy's behavior was, and he was enabling her by not saying anything. He started saying that I sound ridiculous and couldn't even take a joke, referring to the sitting on the lap incident. I said, regardless, I don't want her in my house again. To top it off, Cindy sent a message saying that she was sorry about making me so insecure about myself, and that she would make sure to make me feel better. But I should not have left, as it was pretty childish and kind of spoiled the mood. It felt so backhanded. I didn't reply anything to her. I just told my husband he needs to maintain a distance with Cindy. He asked if I was giving him an ultimatum. I said if he will go as far as disregard and disrespect my feelings for Cindy. This really rubbed my husband the wrong way, and he said that since I have such disgusting thoughts in my mind and is giving him an ultimatum anyway, then he might as well leave, because he cannot leave with such an insecure person who has such disgusting thoughts about him. He packed a bag and left to his mother's place. I've tried apologizing numerous times, telling how sorry I am for everything, but he is ignoring my texts and calls. Later, Cindy's brother texted me and called me a bunch of names. To think like that about his sister, saying Jake should just leave me and a disgusting person like me deserves to be alone. I could not stop crying after that. I don't know how to fix this. Is there a way to even come back? Was I so wrong to deserve this? I don't know anymore. Edit. People who are asking our ages, we are 25 years of age, just months apart. Now for the comments before reading the update. You said other people at the party just stared? Am I mistaken? And no one said anything to either of you? Precisely, Cindy, her brother, and his girlfriend, their cousin with his boyfriend, were present. It wasn't a big dinner, and when it happened, everybody did get silent, but as my husband laughed it off, they didn't say anything either. But they saw that I was not okay, so things were awkward. I don't know what happened after I left. Maybe they said something to Cindy or not, I don't know. I was so overwhelmed with everything, I didn't want to talk about it more. They all just watched Cindy try marking her territory on your husband. That's disgusting. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. I'm not sure what you do next. Best wishes and hugs sent your way. Do you have any connection with the brother's girlfriend? Maybe it's not a good idea, but I'm just wondering if it's worth texting her to ask, am I crazy? She was being inappropriate, right? Just trying to get another outside perspective. But I don't know, the relationship you have with her that could make things worse depending. I think you're not the a-hole for sure. Your husband should take your side over his own family, let alone a girl clearly flirting with him who he claims to see as a sister. I was so overwhelmed with everything and just so embarrassed that I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. But now I will definitely reach out to other people who were there and ask them what had happened after I left and what they think of the situation. Now for the updates. Update 1. Thank you all for responding and people who gave me good advice and personal messages. I couldn't read all the comments, but now I know my feelings are valid and boundaries were crossed by Cindy. Now, during the dinner, there was Cindy, her brother Sean, and his girlfriend, and their cousin Derek, also a good friend of my husband, with his boyfriend. So I called Derek and asked about the situation, what happened after I left. He was sympathetic and said that after I left, at first they thought I would come back after some time, however things were really awkward. But when I didn't come, Sean's girlfriend told Cindy that she was so disrespectful for doing that. Derek and his boyfriend also said the same thing. To this, Cindy started crying, saying they didn't have to corner her and attack her over a silly joke, that she didn't know it would get so out of hand. She then left the room while crying. Jake didn't know what to say and everybody left early the next day. Derek also told that Cindy has always had issues with boundaries, and when he introduced his boyfriend to everybody, Cindy would get too close and would joke that she was just checking to see if he was really gay. They were really uncomfortable with it as well, so Derek confronted her, to which Cindy rolled her eyes and said they can't take a joke, and eventually stopped. This all sounds so bizarre. I don't know what's going on with Cindy. Sean's girlfriend also texted me saying she was very sorry for what had happened. I told him that Sean's message was inappropriate, but she had no idea about the text, so I sent her a screenshot and asked her to tell Sean to not harass me again. She was very apologetic and said that she would talk to him. Now, my mother-in-law called and asked what was going on, as Jake didn't tell her and only said we had an argument. I was a bit hesitant to tell, but eventually told everything. She was furious at my husband. She said that they will be coming to have a talk. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to arrive and really nervous. I don't know if what I did was right or wrong, but we will see. As for people saying my husband is some pedo or they are having an affair, I know this is furthest from the truth. I never questioned his intentions, but what hurt me was the lack of respect from Cindy towards me. Update 2. For people who are still asking me about the update in private messages. So my mother-in-law came with my husband and well, the talk happened. There were a lot of things, but I will try to summarize. Basically, Jake apologized to me first and tried to explain his POV. He said that he was angry because A, I left without saying anything for the whole night, when he was literally trying to defuse the situation and tried to laugh it off because it was so awkward, he didn't know what else to do. But instead of communicating, I just left him in that weird situation. He was meeting his friends after such a long time and just wanted dinner to be peaceful, and Cindy was going back anyway, and we would most likely never meet her again. B, he acknowledged Cindy was indeed overstepping boundaries, but he didn't know how to bring it up since he has literally seen her growing up and she is like a little sister to him. Also, she acts like that with everyone. He thought it was just for a few days and he wanted no drama during their stay, so he would just brush it off. He did acknowledge he was wrong about not saying anything. C, he was already really worried and sad because how I just left with no explanations. Even after I came, not once, I asked how he felt. He was also very overwhelmed with everything and felt I was accusing him for not doing anything when he literally pushed her off as politely as possible when she tried to sit. He felt I was attacking his character and even gave the ultimatum, which made him so sad as he felt I thought that less of him. It wasn't about Cindy, but about how easy it was for me to question his sincerity. He said after that dinner he was going to go extremely low contact with her anyway. D. He apologized for not speaking up about the disrespect Cindy was showing towards me and for also leaving like that. Then after Jake said everything, mother-in-law explained to Jake about the situation from her perspective. She scolded him a lot as well. In short, she told him that as a husband, it was his responsibility to make me feel like I'm his priority, and that he disappointed me the moment I had come to him to ask for establishing boundaries. As a husband, it was his duty that I never would have come to him about this in the first place. She also asked him about how he would have felt had it been a guy on my lap, and he had no answer for it. She told him how what I did was an eruption of suppressed feelings, and as a husband, it was his duty to go after me and never let me leave in the first place. There were a lot of things said by her, and Jake seemed to realize and sincerely apologize for his actions. She told him if he ever pulled such a stunt ever again, then to not expect her to take him in. Later, she took me for a walk. It was just the two of us, and there she explained some things to me as well. She said that she is sorry for everything, but told that even at her house, Jake was distraught. He didn't tell her because he most likely knew he was wrong too, but was overwhelmed about everything as well. She said she in no way is excusing her son's behavior, but would hope that I would forgive him. She also said that in no circumstances I need to leave my house, as it was my house and my family. She said I shouldn't be afraid in speaking my mind if anything makes me uncomfortable, and to talk to her if Jake does something stupid again, and she will set him straight. She hoped we would work it out since she has seen our love for each other, and it would be sad to see us split up due to some disrespectful brat, her words. She said she cannot have a say in our issues, but suggested that we should get counseling to understand each other better. She even bought ice cream for me. I know it's a bit childish, but she said sweet things work as a charm when people are upset, and well, she was right. Well, it was awkward at night. Jake came into our room, and we didn't know what to say. After a while, we talked and both apologized to each other. However, I did tell that I was angry at him to tell everything to Sean and was deeply hurt by the text he sent me. He said he didn't know what I was talking about, and I showed him the text. He said he didn't tell Sean about our fight and only told him that he was at Mom's place. He called Sean and told it turns out that Sean told Cindy and told her how she went too far at the party. Then Cindy made a huge sob story about how I was passive-aggressive with her the whole time, how I would always try to question her character and act insecure and jealous. She even went on to say that I was always like that with her even when she was a kid, and that I never liked her and was always trying to manipulate people into thinking I was an angel while she was a slut. Well, that made him angry to think how I have been treating Cindy, and he sent those texts. Jake and I were baffled by such accusations, and he tried to explain Sean how it wasn't true, but then Jake just let it be and decided to go no contact with Cindy and extremely low contact with Sean. Jake apologized again, and we just cuddled and slept. Well, Cindy is out of our lives for good now, and we have decided to go to counseling for better communication in the future. Let's see how everything goes in the future, but yeah, we are not getting divorced. I know a lot of you people wanted me to show Jake this post, but he was so sad and got scolded a lot already, so I decided not to show him for now. Maybe in the future. Sorry for all this rambling. Have a good day, people. Edit. I read people saying that we should go no contact with Sean too, and I felt that it would be best to let that friendship go as well, so I talked to my husband about it and he agreed. So he sent a text to Sean stating we could not be friends with him and then blocked him as well. To clarify, I have somewhat forgiven Jake for his actions, but I told him he needs to rebuild the trust I had, so I know I can rely on him in situations like this. He agreed, and we will get couples counseling as well. Thanks for all of your advice. You all made me feel less lonely in all of this. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for ruining at a family dinner because of my golden child sister? I, 17 female, have a younger sister, Emily, 16 female. Even though they don't say it explicitly, Emily is clearly my parents' favorite child. I can understand why they're proud of Emily. She's a straight A student, has the lead roles in student theater, swims competitively, is popular at school, and very good looking. I, on the other hand, am probably more plain. I work hard at school, but I'm not as outgoing or as intelligent as Emily, and don't excel at any extracurriculars like she does. My parents have always celebrated Emily. We have certificates of her work on the fridge, always have outings and meals to commemorate her achievements, and attend all of her swim events and plays. I know my parents love me, but I don't get close to the level of the attention even when I work hard. The other night, we went out with my parents, uncle, aunt, and cousins. We'd just been to one of Emily's shows, and she recently got accepted onto a summer scheme she was wanting to complete. The whole meal revolved around discussing Emily and how proud everyone was of her accomplishments. I don't think I was mentioned even one time. I'm usually more reserved or just bite my tongue, but midway through the meal I shouted out, maybe if you paid more attention to me and not just your golden child, you'd have more things to celebrate. Everyone just went silent, and my mom said we'd discuss this when we got home and not to ruin the meal. Emily looked shocked and close to crying. To say the rest of the meal was awkward would be putting it lightly. When we got home, my parents shouted at me for embarrassing them and said that Emily deserves to be celebrated and that if I did something that merited celebration, I would receive the same treatment. I said how unfair this was and nothing I do gets recognized regardless. Emily joined in and said she works hard and deserves to be recognized for that, and as the older sister, I should grow up and actually work for once if I want her success. I haven't spoken to Emily since, and my parents are still annoyed at me for ruining the meal. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. I feel for you because I once blew up because I didn't get a big graduation party like my sister, who everyone loves, and even flew internationally to attend. But it was after I said I didn't want a big party because I'm really uncomfortable being in the spotlight. So yeah, I understand the conflict in one's mind. But you have to be realistic. It is not your sister's fault that she is accomplished. If you both achieved the same thing and they celebrated her and not you, then yeah, that would be shitty parenting. But ignoring her achievements just because you didn't achieve similarly, that would also be shitty parenting. You were rude. You were unkind to your sister who has done nothing but exist as herself. I hate to say this, but those of us who are quiet and don't focus on distinguishing ourselves simply don't give people as much material to work with when it comes to taking an interest in celebrating. You are the a-hole. You do deserve to be the focus of praise and interest some of the time. But if you don't do things that can be highlighted as different from the daily grind, that's probably going to be limited to your birthday and hitting standard milestones like graduating from high school or getting a new job. Because you didn't achieve similarly. This is the problem I have. Every kid has something to celebrate. Emily's successes are easier to see, but that doesn't mean OP has nothing worth celebrating. If they can celebrate all A's for a child who finds it easy to do well academically, they can celebrate 1A for a child who struggles academically. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for correcting the lie my half-siblings told that my dad used to be their stepdad and he dumped them into foster care once our mom died? So I, 27 male, have 3 younger half-siblings, 24 female, 22 male, and 21 male. We're maternal half-siblings and I have a different dad to them. Their dad was dating my mom for several years, but they never got married. So he wasn't legally ever my stepdad, but I guess he would kind of get the title since he lived with my mom and I lived with her half the time. He was never interested in me, and I was never interested in him. He used to creep me out, so I don't really think of him like that, but technically their dad would have been my step. Mine was never anything to them. When my mom was pregnant with their youngest, their dad was arrested and he went to prison. He was briefly released 8 years later, but ended up going back to prison. He wasn't a good guy and has a long list of convictions now. I was 8 when my mom died. I was living with my dad full time when she died. She was not taking good care of me and was taking her anger about my boyfriend's release out on me through a lot of yelling and talking to me like shit. When my mom died, a social worker got involved and my half-siblings were removed. They had no biological family willing to take them, and the social worker asked my dad if he would consider a kinship care agreement so they could be raised alongside me. My dad said that was not something he would be interested in, and so my half-siblings were placed in foster care. My dad did agree to some visits. We had one visit every 2 months for years. The visits were never easy because my half-siblings would ask to move in with my dad and me, and they would ask why my dad didn't visit and why they couldn't be with him instead so we could live together. They were separated most of the time in foster care and would put that on me and my dad as well. I refused the visits once I turned 16. I had wanted them for a while, but it was more annoying than anything to have to repeat the same conversation every 2 months. My dad let me make the decision because he really had to drag me there for most of the visits anyway. We had no contact for years, and then just over 2 years ago, they reached out to me and said that they wanted a relationship again. I told them that I didn't, and they said that they wouldn't mention my dad again. So I agreed, and things were going all right. Not having to have that fight with them made it easier to care. But then a few weeks ago, I found out at my half-brother's 21st birthday party that they had been lying to people claiming my dad was their stepdad, and he dumped them in foster care as soon as mom died. They apparently knew most people wouldn't think he was wrong. If he was just my dad, they never knew. So they spun a story. I told people the truth when it came up, and afterward I told my half-siblings that I was so done with them and that their obsession with my dad taking them in is what drove me crazy before. I told them he wasn't their anything and lying was not the way to win me over. They accused me of ruining their lives by exposing their lies. Am I the a-hole? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.